Hello, this is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Hope you enjoy this video. Hello and welcome to another week of Game Wisdom Live. We are of course doing this on broadcast on my Twitch channel, GW Bycer, for those of you watching this recorded in the future. It is the week of December 1st, 2016. We only have 1 month left before we have to start figuring out Game of the Year awards. Unfortunately, James couldn't make it this week. He's not feeling too well, but we have a couple of special guests with me tonight, and we are going to talk about, I don't even want to think of how many topics we're going to get on tonight. But for those of you who are fans of the Twitch stream, you probably remember them from our Building the Game segment of their title, Bit Shifter. So please welcome from Plastic Games, Paul Dana and Jim Horn.
How you doing? This is Paul.
Hi, I'm Jim.
Hi guys, it's great to have you guys back on. I was just talking with another podcast guest on. We did a recording last week, and it seems like time in this industry moves so much faster. Like 2 months feels like 6 months. Like I haven't spoken to him in a year. It felt like 4 years since we last spoke. So it feels like it's been a very long time since we've sat down and chat.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Mm-hmm. So
1 week feels like
yeah,
2 seconds.
I know.
I think I grew a whole new beard.
And it's about time I have to start trimming things down myself here. Especially this weather, we're finally entering, I think, at least here on the East Coast, it's finally starting to get cold. Or at least cold enough that I can put away my shorts. But we're finally getting to the end of the year, and I guess the first question then is, how are you guys doing? Because I think, didn't we last speak, was it like July or August?
At least that.
Yeah.
I'd have to, at least that.
Yeah, I'd have to consult my notes, which is my way of saying ask my wife.
I mean,
I
I
know what we
didn't
were
even
doing
say
at the
even
time.
It was before. It was well before we went to Retro World. That was last month.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at least maybe
Yeah.
July.
Let's say it does feel like a long time. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And this is the first time we're actually having sort of our live discussion. Last time we talked, it was doing the spotlight of Bit Shifter. So for those of you watching this, either live or recorded, this is our weekly show, which, as I said at the start, we're now streaming it live on Twitch. It was originally on YouTube Gaming. And this is kind of a way for me, when I'm on each week with James, to sort of catch up with the audience, talk about interesting topics, and give kind of like a summary of what's been happening over the week. And of course, whenever we have the chance, it's always great to have guests on to add their thoughts to any topics we talk about.
Cool.
So I guess to begin with, just to wrap things up or to summarize for people watching, while we didn't get any new Patreon subscribers this week, things have certainly been growing with the YouTube channel. As of this recording, we're at 962 subscribers on YouTube. And that means
Nice.
we are so freaking close to 1,000. We can almost taste it.
I think we have 60 subscribers on YouTube. I'm not even kidding. If that.
Brave souls.
Yeah.
60 brave souls have trotted their ways to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
One of them may or may not be my mom.
Exactly. One or may not be my account. That also is part of the other account.
I was thinking about doing that, but I don't want to piss off YouTube any more than I've done in the past with their AdSense program. Because the first time I did, I was like saying, yeah, I'm on YouTube. Like, do you want to click on ads? I'm not saying yes or no. Now I'm just saying, no, don't click on them. None of my friends or family, I don't exist on YouTube. Just leave it to everyone else.
I was actually pulling a number out of my butt, and I just went to the channel, and it is 60.
And it has definitely been, like, I think when we last spoke, again, that was like July or August. I don't think we had 500 subscribers at that point, or I think we were, like, a stone's throw away from it. So
Yeah, I think you're in like the 400s or something at that point.
yeah. So, I mean, things have definitely been improving. For those of you who missed the announcement on one of the earlier critical thoughts I put up, I finally got my hands on a PlayStation 4, which of course means that console streaming and console games will be coming to the YouTube channel. So, for any developers watching this who are working on a PlayStation 4 or a PSN game, if you would like me to take a look at your game, definitely feel free to get in touch. Again, my email is josh@game-wisdom.com. The first video I just put up today was of Resident Evil 7, the demo that they released for E3 or whatever. And I'm hopefully going to be doing a Bloodborne Let's Play very soon. The copy is somewhere between, I think, California and New Jersey right now. So hopefully it will get here soon, because I've been really excited to play that one.
Nice.
And for those of you watching this live right now, if you would like to ask us any questions or comment on anything that you're seeing, be sure to feel free to post it in the chat notes. As you can see, whether or not you're watching this live recorded, I have Twitch. It should be right over there. So feel free to leave a comment and we will certainly talk about it. But enough about catching up. Enough about the summary. I guess the one big thing that I think that's helped the YouTube channel has been the critical thoughts I've been doing. I think, have you guys had a chance to watch any of the my daily videos I put up?
I've listened to I never have the time to watch the whole thing, but I've listened to a couple of them.
Cool. I think that's been one of the things that has helped out the channel, because it's something that's small and bite-sized. I can put up daily with the longer videos, because I've been saying this, that I used to do like 2 to 3 hours of videos a day, and even though the content was good, it's just too much damn content a day. I mean, if I can barely sit through like an hour myself, what makes you think that people can listen to 3 hours of me talk a day at a time?
I think everyone finds it pretty painful to listen to themselves talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I hate hearing myself talk. I like you said you're gonna be posting these online. I'm not gonna listen to it because I hate hearing. I can't hear myself. It's just I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I can't do it either. I mean, one of the biggest tortures is the fact that each week I have to edit the podcast, so I have to listen to myself for like an hour to 2 hours each time, just like closing my eyes, going, oh, I can't listen. I can't stand myself. It also makes it really hard to watch my own critical thoughts. So I usually watch them just to see how I'm doing in terms of staring at the camera, talking. So now I'm watching myself and hearing myself talk, and it's just like, oh my god, it's horrible for me to do this. Let's see, what else do we have here? 1 second, just want to make sure Google was acting up. There we go. But I guess to start with, since this is more of a lax discussion than our lengthy podcast that way, I think didn't we go for almost like 2 hours the last time we spoke?
Yeah, let's avoid that.
I mean, eventually we have to eat.
The good stuff fast.
Yeah.
So you said you're got your hands on Bloodborne, or you're looking forward to this? I didn't even know about the game, so I just Googled that one myself, and I'm looking at it. It looks interesting.
Yeah, it's the... this makes sense. It's the spiritual successor to Dark Souls, which in turn was a spiritual successor to Demon's Souls, essentially. And it was a PlayStation exclusive, so it's not going to be coming to the PC anytime like the Souls series. And I've been wanting to play this game for a while now, because I've played all the Souls games. And I ordered it pretty much like the day after I ordered my PS4, so now it's just sitting around waiting for it to get here.
So it looks like it's the same company, From Software.
Yeah, definitely. I think
so
it's
not just a spiritual successor, but maybe successor. Right?
Yeah. And I know that I think it was created by the original creator of Demon's Souls. It was kind of like his way of trying to do something else with that formula. And they say that it is different. Like, from a base level, it is different from the Souls series. But
cool.
Yeah,
So why are you looking forward to it? What catches your eye for this game? Just that you always wanted to play Demon Souls, or you liked?
I really do like the Soul series. I bought, for those of you who don't know the story, I bought Demon Souls 3 months before I bought my PlayStation 3 because of the word of mouth I heard from people. So I had to stare at it in my room for 3 months, going, I have it, I just can't play it right now. And it really, what I really like about it, and that actually takes me to a really good topic that I wanted to bring up, is I've been trying out the game Dragon's Dogma. Have you heard of this game?
No. What an interesting title.
It's from Capcom, and it's essentially their take on Skyrim, which I'm sure you guys have heard of that one, and the series Monster Hunter. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's essentially they're kind of combining these two games. So you have the open world, go where you want, do as you please of Skyrim, with the you're going to be fighting monsters that are literally the size of buildings of Monster Hunter. And it has a lot of the kind of like this is one of the things I was actually thinking about the other night, because I've been having a hard time describing the combat system of a game like Dragon's Dogma or even something like the Witcher series. Have you guys played like any of the three Witcher games?
I have not. I heard great things about it, and people have been encouraging me to play that one particularly. You know?
Yeah,
I have. Unfortunately, I have not either. It's been another one of those. I want to get into it and play it, but just don't get around to it because.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You gotta buy it first, right?
Yeah.
You gotta buy it first.
Yeah. the thing with like the Witcher's combat is that it is real time. You are playing like you would an action RPG, but there's a lot of like abstraction at work in terms of how much damage you're doing, what skills you have available, stuff like that. And it's a lot similar, or Dragon's Dogma is similar to that game. So you start with just like a basic light and heavy attack. That's it. You have no special abilities, nothing like that. And then you level up, and as you level up like the different classes or vocations, you unlock skills that you can attach to your character. And these skills are like special moves. So, as an example, the character that I was trying out, he gets a move where he will charge at a guy with a sword or a dagger, and basically, stab him, and then do like a little 2-3 hit combo after that kind of thing. And the combos, yeah, and the combo set and the game is pretty much built on these special moves. Because if you just stick with your light and heavy attacks, they're just not going to do a damn thing. It's going to take you several times longer to beat these enemies. And it's similar to what they did with The Witcher, that you start with like a basic set of abilities, and then through these skill trees you unlock core abilities, like the ability to block without taking damage. You improve your signs or your spells. Basically, you really can't fight all that well in The Witcher, or you really can't hold your own until you level up and get those skills. And the Souls series, I think, is the opposite. The opposite of that. The Souls games, you basically start out skill-wise or mechanic-wise with pretty much like your full repertoire. You have your light attack, your heavy attack, you can repose, you can dodge, all that good stuff. And then it's just about taking that and figuring out how to play the game, learning timing, stuff along those lines. But
yeah, that's a more skills game versus it's a actual playing skill game versus a skills of the game.
Yeah, I think that's it there, Jim. That it's like
skills rather than level up skills.
Yeah. I think that's where for me personally, I think those are the kinds of RPG games I like. I was thinking about this earlier today. I think the simplest way to explain it is that I much rather play an action game that has RPG elements than an RPG with action elements. And I think that's just from how I grew up. I basically played nothing but action games. I didn't really get into the RPG genre until probably until like the mid to late 90s. And even then, I didn't really grow up playing, the Baldur's Gates, Neverwinter Nights, Maya Magic, stuff like that. For me, it's always been, Ninja Gaiden, Uncharted, even like games like Resident Evil, which even though they're not pure action, it's still real time. It's about the player rather than leveling up, or you can't fight this guy because he's 10 levels above you, that kind of thing.
Right.
And
so do you think?
Yep.
Do you think in that kind of game, losing is more motivating?
In which one, Souls or Dragon?
Well,
I think he means. I think he means.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
In like a human skill kind of a game, like you're talking about, where you have to get better at doing what is presented to you on day one, rather than you are granted more and more abilities from leveling up, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of game, I wonder if you find that losing a battle is more motivating, because you feel like I have to rise to the occasion and get better to be able to do it, and that's part of what drives me to play action games versus strategy.
Yeah, I think that's it for me, Paul. Like, again, when I play like Ninja Gaiden Black, for example, I know when I lose a fight, it's not because of I didn't level my character up or I didn't put enough points in my sword. It's because I didn't learn the pattern, or I zigged when I should have zagged, kind of thing. And when you learn it, it's one of those games, like I've said this before about the Soulsborne titles, that it becomes easier over time as you play because you're learning the game. It's more about you as a player learning, even though you have a level in the Souls games. You have your soul level, which determines your stats. Stats aren't going to make a boss fight easier, basically. If I have, 80 points in strength, it's not going to magically make this boss a cakewalk or impossible if, let's say, I only had 60. Like, you can't really grind a boss in the Souls game. It can make it easier. Like, if you level up your armor or you get more vitality, it'll make you survive better. But if you don't learn the pattern or you don't figure out how these fights are, there's no stat or item in the game that's going to make you win, essentially.
So that's where I'm a wimp. I like and appreciate the Dark Souls games and stuff like that, but they're too hard. I will get frustrated and never finish it. And I like to be able to finish a game. And that's the one reason why I'll watch people play it, and I'll see that, and I'll enjoy watching people play it. But I would get way too frustrated and probably break many things in my room trying to beat that game. That's it would cost more than the $60 game.
$60 game, $40.
$60 game, couple $100 monitor,
$300 system.
Beat Dark Souls priceless.
And that is perfectly fair, Jim. I know of a lot of people who don't like the Soul series because of that difficulty.
Like challenge, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but,
it is a game that.
Hey, Jim, I think it's context, right? Because you like, for example, Sonic, and Sonic is also about getting better at playing the game, not
old
just
school Sonic. Just to
yeah, he likes the old school Sonic, and that's about skills.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. It's one of those things that makes the Soul series so polarizing is that they're. Now, I'm going to say this, and I know someone's about to comment otherwise, but before you do, let me get the whole thought out.
Okay.
The Soul. Yeah. No, I'm talking about like the audience. Anyone watching this on YouTube, I'm going to get like 10 comments. But
no, that's what they're saying.
Yeah. The Soul series is very much like we said, it is skills oriented. If you can't learn this game, there's no level skip. There is no, drop the game to easy mode, or, find the ultimate weapon that kills the boss in one hit kind of thing. So if you get stuck, it becomes a brick wall. You're not going to get past this. Now, with later games in the Soul series, they have added in small concessions. There's covenants you can take that allow you to summon more characters. There's, of course, a whole summoning of people to help you kind of thing. And that's definitely an interesting way of getting around the difficulty. It reminds me a lot of a game that came out earlier this year called Fury. Have you guys heard of this one?
I have heard of it. I haven't played it. I haven't seen much about it.
Yeah. Fury, F-U-R-I, was a game, I think it was developed by the Game Bakers, and it's essentially just a game built on boss rush. you're basically fighting boss after boss, and there's like shmup elements to it. There's action elements, and it's a very challenging game. Again, it's very skill focused. If you can't learn the patterns, you're done. You're not going to get through this game in the slice. They have an easy mode, normal, and then the oh my god, why are you hurting yourself mode, which is always the fun one to have. And it was another game that was kind of polarizing in that regard, because I could beat the game on normal, like when I've kind of like trained myself for it, but I can't beat it on the hardest difficulty.
See, now that's the thing. Now, this type of game, Fury is more of a game that type of challenge, it would frustrate me, but things will stay intact.
Mm-hmm.
But the Dark Souls game just looks like, oh, I have to fight this big thing, and I can't even see where it's coming from because he's taking up the entire screen.
Mm.
That's fair. That's my, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what frustrates me. That's why it's like this, where it's like the whole over the top field view is much better.
Mm-hmm.
For me.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting about how we're seeing these games try to really copy the Soulsborne formula or try to deliver harder challenges, and that's probably going to be part of our discussion later in our little discussion here. I do want to get back to Dragon's Dogma because I just want to finish my thought on that one, but before I do, here's a question for both of you. This is the internal Dark Souls question that has caused fighting and erupting all over the internet. But there's been that debate as to should the Souls series have a difficulty setting. Like, as I just said, there are ways of either lowering or raising the difficulty. Don't bring people to fight. Use less than optimal equipment. There was even a covenant in Dark Souls 2 that made the game harder if you chose it. But in terms of having like actual difficulty settings, easy, normal, hard, like literal ways of defining the difficulty of the game.
Emphatically, yes, because then I would play the game and I would play that beginning to end. Everyone would then be able to play the game beginning to end, and the designers of the games themselves. Everyone is now able to see it beginning to end. I don't want to create a game that only 10% can go through it, or even 50% that can beat it. I want create a game that 100% of the people can play it.
Well, yeah.
Of course not 100%. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like in an ideal world, 100%.
There's no like barriers stopping them from enjoying the game.
And if you don't, if it's going to start off on normal. That's the thing you design the game for, or whatever level you design it for, and then you just nerf it. Okay? You don't have to play the nerfed version. No one said, hey, you have to play easy mode. No, don't play easy mode. Don't give it, don't make it an incentive to play easy mode where maybe you don't get an achievement when you play in easy mode. Then if you're on normal mode and you want achievements, play in a normal or something. You know what I mean?
Give a reason. Yeah, availability. There's also another perspective which it doesn't speak to the purity of people who are like, hey, I'm just a person who plays it. But people who review games will appreciate in easy mode because they can see more of the game faster. They can say, okay, I get it. If I was in a harder mode, this would be more challenging. But I don't have time for that. I want to get to the part that is substantial. And if I have to learn, then I want to get through that as quickly as possible so I can get to the review. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I know that's pragmatic, but it's there.
And there's also the argument for what we're seeing with a lot of games, especially RPGs these days, which have the difficulty of you just want to see the story. That's the difficulty. Like the people who wanted to see the entirety of Mass Effect, but didn't want to, challenge themselves or didn't want to feel frustrated by the RPG combat. And games like that are, like, again, it can be very polarizing. And this is one of those things that is also weird for me to talk about, again, because I know my skill set. I know, or I should say, everyone is different in terms of their games. There are some games that I've played that I find easy, that they put me to sleep, that other people are struggle with. Likewise, there are some games that I play that I just cannot figure out for the life of me, that I have friends who are like, oh yeah, I just, it was easy. It took me like 2 hours to beat the whole thing. And
you're standing there going, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is like a really good point about difficulty settings. defense from the fans about why there shouldn't be is that they feel that keeping the game at this level and asking people to grow is a major element of the Soulsborne design. And
I get them, but oh my god,
I understand that. That certainly applies for competitive games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a competitive game and I take some time to get better at it and I try to be more competitive, and then they just go and nerf the game so that there's these really dumb things that people could just do to win just by pushing a button, you would feel that's wrong. So I could understand that point.
Yeah, and again, it is very
competitive. I can understand that, but yeah.
And it's one of those very interesting discussions because I keep seeing like people talk about the merits of difficulty settings in games. Like there are some games where the difficulty kind of feels out of whack in a sense. Like normal is ridiculously easy. Easy is like so easy you don't have to play the game, and then hard is let's just give every enemy like 800 health points. Let's give them like 800 times their normal health, and the player dies in 3 hits. Like Pablo in chat is talking about games that do force you to play on impossible, and I agree with that. Like if your game is going to be super difficult on that front, there should be multiple settings to accommodate. And even for me, I do have my limits. Like when I played Doom earlier in 2016, I kept it at Nightmare, but I knew I was not going to play this game on Ultra Nightmare, which is the hardcore saying you die, you start the game back off at the start. I knew that was just too much for me. There was no way in hell I was going to play that one.
Right, but those harder difficulties, people always say, I understand why that's better, but they don't often appreciate the easier difficulties and why that's also worthwhile as well. And it's really just a perspective. There's people who just play far less games than you do.
Exactly.
Orders of magnitude less. So even simple stuff really is challenging for them. They may want to still play the game.
Yep.
So, I actually have a problem with, there's just too much stigma attached to the difficulty mode, If it was your younger brother, you wouldn't necessarily, you'd be like, yeah, okay, let's just make it easier for you because you're young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can picture a context, but you imagine everyone else doesn't have a legitimate reason. Well, that's silly, So, in our game, BitShifter, I actually have 2 easier difficulty modes, not just one. Because some people might be like, yeah, I want easy, but I don't want it to be this fucking easy.
Yeah, you don't want it to be the game plays itself.
I thought there was value I thought there was value in that. You know what I mean? Having a mode that was just slightly easier because you're but you don't want to go crazy mode, but still have crazy mode easy for the younger brother or sister.
Yep, and then there's also on the flip side that if you're trying to learn the game, you can have multiple variants of hard mode, like hard, or let me do it on this way so people can see my hand, like hard, very hard, expert, extreme, and then it basically lets you sort of, dip your toe into the deep end kind of thing. Like you're going to learn. Payday 2 is a good example of that. They now have 4 different hard difficulties. There's Overkill, Mayhem, Death Wish, and One Down. One Down means you basically can be knocked out once, and then the next time you go into custody, kind of thing. And as the difficulty levels go up, they raise the attack values and the health values of all the enemies. They'll introduce like some harder variants of enemies as well. And it's a good way of sort of gauging, again, like just where you're at in the game. Killing Floor 2 does this to some extent. There's 4 difficulties, and they tell you exactly, saying, okay, normal is if you're level 0, 0 to 5. Hard is for 5 to 10. Suicidal is like 10 to 15 or 10 to 20. And then Hell on Earth, the ultimate difficulty, is max level or close to it. This is when the game basically takes the gloves off, kind of thing.
So hold on. Is that 5 levels that you just quoted?
No, 4. Normal, hard, suicidal, Hell on Earth.
Okay, because my team gives me a hassle for making 5.
Yeah. Well, no. I was just gonna say though, isn't that then just really just rewording easy, normal, hard, and expert?
Yeah. They do add in like new enemies.
Yeah, but that's the whole stigma thing. It's like the assumption is you say normal, and it's like, oh, everyone should be able to do this, and you're subnormal if you don't do it. It's just a lot of judgment. That's all.
Like, did you like in like Wolfenstein, like the old Doom that they have? The difficulties are like, I'm fine, or hurt me plenty. This is too much.
Yeah. Cry mommy or whatever. I love that. Everyone loves that.
Now, one thing about difficulty that I do like, but I know not a lot of games can do, and this is actually sort of part of a critical thought I did, was when you can basically control the difficulty yourself. Like games that let you decide how hard you want to make the game and be rewarded or eased up accordingly. Stuff like what they do with Diablo 3 these days. And you have, easy, normal, hard, nightmare, torment, and then all the torment levels above that. Or one of my favorite games, which, for those of you who are longtime fans, you can take a shot of your whatever drink you have now, because I'm going to bring it up again, and that's The World Ends With You for the 3DS. Or, no, I'm sorry, just for the DS that it came out for. And in that game, they basically let you define exactly how hard you want to make the game, and then they give you extra rewards for playing the game at the higher levels. They make
Is this like a choice you make once at the beginning?
No.
Or is it something you make as you go?
You can choose at any time not in combat to adjust the difficulty as you want. You can make the enemies harder, and you can also lower your max health, which determines the drop rate. So it basically works like every notch that you drop your health from max improves like the drop rate, let's say by different intervals. So maybe like when you first drop, it's like 1% drop rate. When you get to like 20 or 30, it's maybe 0.5% drop rate. But what they do is, if you want to get the absolute best stuff in the game, you have to work at it. You have to play the game at the hardest settings, and you have to take your health as low as you're willing to go to risk it. Because they have like...
That's cool.
The bosses have like super... they have different loot based on the difficulty you're playing at, and the super rare, oh my god, it's the best stuff, has like a 0.0025 chance of dropping if you don't lower your health. And then if you lower your health by maybe like 20-30%, it goes to maybe 20% chance. And you can keep playing at that, or you can say, let me lower it even further. You can even go as far down as like 1 point of health left, but that's
people
insane.
Love to torture themselves, so I think, that's great, and it would be great to have the kind of social features in the game to be able to show off to your friends and say, look what I did. Like, they'd already know what you'd done.
And
that would be cool too, and being able to sort of share what you're able to achieve.
Yeah, and Pablo in chat brought up Skyrim, and that's another really good point about difficulty. I'm curious what you guys think about this. Games, mentioned this in a critical thought about dynamic difficulty, where the game essentially tries to scale its difficulty depending upon what you're doing without you having any real direct control. So, like in like...
That sounds like a holy grail, right? That sounds like something that would be awesome if it worked, especially seamlessly. You didn't even notice it, but it sounds like it could lead to disaster.
Yeah, like Oblivion or the Elder Scrolls 4, I think. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I'll grab the Mario Gold thing whenever I can if I can't get through a level. The golden thing. I want to beat the level. Get down to the next one. Yeah. So.
Sometimes your desire to progress.
That's the simplest form of it, because you die 5 or 6 times. It hands you this in the beginning. You're invincible the entire time. You can still die from falling, which is usually how I end up dying now. So,
right, but it's also like a ditch way to get out of this level.
Yeah.
In Skyrim, if they have an easy difficulty that makes you unkillable, that would be for the whole game, right? That's stupid.
Well, I was just using that as the I'm fine with that if it would work. I don't think it's probably good. I don't think it's good enough yet.
Yeah, and what Pablo's saying in chat is kind of the problem I have with Skyrim, is that because it scales depending upon what your level is, it means that you're never really showing any sense of improvement or growth compared to the enemies, because they're always going to be like a level higher than you, or stronger. So, and this can also make it frustrating to explore, because let's say in the beginning you're just fighting like rats or wolves out in the forest, level 2, 3. But let's say you want to run back through the area just to get to the next point, and you're level 50. Now those rats and wolves have been replaced with ogre rats and flaming elemental wolves who shoot lightning out of their mouth. That kind of craziness that just it just takes the player out of the equation, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's where those types of leveling systems go wrong. That's what I mean. That they haven't really gotten it right yet. I don't think.
And that's one of the things that just drives me a little annoyed about like Bethesda's style of RPG design. It's what keeps me from really enjoying games like Fallout or Fallout and the Elder Scrolls series. And like I said earlier with Dragon's Dogma, is that it feels like they're trying to add action elements to an RPG where I would rather play an action game where they add RPG elements to it, that kind of thing. Like, I still want my skill to be the factor. I don't want to play a game where I can do everything right, but because his enemy is scaled 10, 15 levels above me, I have no shot at beating him, kind of thing.
I get you on that. I mean,
On the other hand, I want a lightning wolf.
yeah, exactly.
I want my own lightning wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going back to Dragon's Dogma, or Dragon, I think I'm butchering the title as I'm talking. 1 second. Now I had to type it in quickly just to make sure I am saying it right. Yeah, Dragon's Dogma. It's that same kind of like grammatical nightmare that Dark Souls is. That's possessive, I think, possessive S on Dark. Or no, right. Demon's Souls. You're possessing the souls, or their souls are possessing you, or something like that. But in Dragon's Dogma, they go like one of the things that I thought was really interesting about the game, and I mentioned this in my review that's up today, that you use created NPCs as your party. You get one that you can customize exactly how you want, and then you summon 2 more from like the player base or from the servers. And it's kind of like a cool way, but I would have preferred if I could just create my own party. Like, I love the Etrian Odyssey series, the dungeon crawler for DS and 3DS, and I'm one of those guys who I will spend like 10 minutes figuring out, okay, exactly how am I going to build this party, what skills, how are they going to complement each other, that whole deal. So just like taking that choice away from me just really hurts, I think, from Dragon's Dogma. But I know that a lot of people like it for the social aspect. You know, you get to send your guy to your friend, he levels up or grows, and then they send it back to you and maybe like a little reward, that kind of deal.
Yeah, I could. Everyone's different, right? Like that would bore me to tears. I would definitely want someone else trying to figure out.
Yeah, that would bore. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So only some people like to have that, dungeon master level of control.
Yeah, and that is perfectly acceptable as well. I mean, again, we can say, like, going back to the Souls experience, there are a lot of people who prefer to play that game at, the hardest. I'm going to go around without a shield by myself and fight all the bosses. I did the insanely stupid thing of fighting Champion Gundyr solo in Dark Souls 3, which, for those of you who played Dark Souls 3, you know what I'm talking about with that one. It's just like an insanely challenging, skill-oriented fight. But as I said in my review, I would love for someone to take Etrian Odyssey and combine with Monster Hunter. So for any developers out there, there's your free idea today. Go make that game right now.
Awesome.
And so like Dragon's Dogma, it's one of those games that I want to love it more. Like I said, like I love this idea of going out into this world, and the monsters in the game, you climb on them like Shadow of Colossus. So like one of the earliest fights, you're literally climbing on a Hydra. You're climbing up his neck to cut the head off to do damage there. And then like another fight, I was like crawling on top of a Cyclops trying to stab him in the eye with my sword. All while your party is like going around trying to distract him. They're shooting spells, and it's like fantastic. But it just has so many of those annoying open world or Skyrim elements to it that just annoy me when I play them. It's why I just cannot get into those games. And I want to touch on one point that you guys were mentioning earlier before I forget, regarding about trying to make your game as accessible as possible, or trying to give your player base the greatest chance of playing it. And I just had a talk with Zach Barth from Zachtronics, and his games are some of the most niche styles I can think of. They're all like programming puzzle games, if you guys haven't heard of them before. Have you seen like?
I think I might have. I think I might.
I think I might have. Yeah, I think I might have.
But the name isn't ringing a bell. But somebody described a game like that very recently. So
Yeah.
well,
Space.
the last couple months. I mean, like semi recently.
Yeah, if you type in like Space Chem or Infinifactory, his latest game, Shenzhen IO, is literally a game where you're programming electronics and you're putting together electronics in a variety of programming puzzles. And he told me his games are
awesome.
niche. Like he says that he knows. He says like there's a percentage of people who play his games that quit before they finish the first puzzle. It's small, but there are people who don't even get past the first level in his games.
Oh, sure. This looks awesome, though. I mean, the endowment for science, foundation should just fund this.
Yeah.
This is obviously so good for our humanity. You know?
Yeah, and like
don't you think? I mean, come on, man. It'd be great if there was games that encourage skills in being good at taking out your liver. You know, you'll certainly feel that time when the day comes where you have to have your liver taken out, you know? Wouldn't you feel a lot more confident for people who have all kinds of ways of training and getting to that point of skill without having to actually cut anyone's liver?
Yeah, and that's kind of like the talks we've been having regarding virtual reality these days, with being able to add more to like simulators. Like imagine we could have like a inexpensive way of teaching, like you just mentioned, like surgery without again needing a cadaver, or sort of like a cheaper way of doing stuff like what they do with flight simulators or spaceship simulators, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, then it starts, trending into things that aren't as such games, right? And I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
But that you got to make sure that when you're having the conversation, it's clear. So, what are you talking about? Something that's good for training people, or something that's fun to play? You know what I mean? And obviously, there's things in between, and that's why I would get excited by something like a game that would make a game out of doing this piece of programming or this piece of electronics. Hell yes, we need that desperately. Things that live in the middle there. That's great.
Yeah, and like he said that he knows his games aren't going to be $1 million sellers. They're going to be on the cover. They're going to be on the front page on IGN or Kotaku anytime soon. But he's handling things. He's handling this niche essentially, and I don't think there's anyone else who's actually making those games. From Twitch, I agree with Pablo about that Monster Hunter really does it right in terms of enemy design. It's kind of like the Dark Souls experience, that even the basic enemy in these games will kick your ass if you're not prepared. Now, the Monster Hunter games, they're pretty much like you have like the small enemies, but then it's really about fighting these massive guys. And it reminds me again, I really like the idea of the Monster Hunter Dragon's Dogma thing, where it's not just you hammering square on a boss for 10 minutes watching his health bar deplete. You have to actually interact with this guy. You have to trap him. If his arm is doing a lot of damage, maybe you can climb up and, hurt his arm enough that he can't do his strongest attack anymore. That kind of, I'm not sure how I want to phrase it, like adaptable combat or location-based combat, maybe?
Freeform combat?
Yeah. And I was trying to think of one other example. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now. Regarding like that kind of, like the Monster Hunter or Dragon's Dogma, where yeah.
Well, there's a lot of I mean, even just not in combat though, because I mean, I'm more of a. I mean, I like the action games and action RPG games, but I've always been like a platform gamer. I've always that type of thing, and there's difficulty in those games too that are frustrating and that are the same, and you can have it so where, especially in the newer games nowadays, there's multiple ways you can go at a problem, whether it be attacking something or just getting through the level itself. And it's just on the perspective of how you're playing it.
And I think another thing that would be interesting would be to focus also on the failures. So we've been talking about examples of how people do things right, and then we touched briefly on how Skyrim did some things wrong. But I think it's really useful to think about games that would have been better had they had different difficulty options. So what comes to mind when I say that? So what game were you frustrated with, where you felt like, if this was just harder, maybe it would hold my attention. I don't see what the big deal is. Or conversely, that you thought, God, I would have stick with this game if you gave me an easier way to get past this. This is frustrating.
I do have an example. If you guys want me to go first with that.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
The Lego, the whole Lego IP thing from Traveler's Tales. The Lego, Lego Lord of the Rings, Lego Batman, Lego Star Wars, that whole thing.
Right.
I just find those games so boring. I remember enjoying the first Lego Star Wars, way back when they did like the prequel games for it. But they are just clearly aimed at children to the point where every level is
I played the Batman one. Yeah. And I was into it at first, and I thought, God, this is just sort of lots of being able to do the same easy thing, no problem.
And then there's like no growth to it. It just repeats the same thing. Like the counter example would be like a Mario game. They start off easy, but they grow in difficulty. They ease you into it. Like when I play something like the Lego games, it just felt like, okay, well, now I gotta wait for the same cutscene. They're gonna tell me to do the glide again. Next I'll have to do the same thing. Like it's like they're basically there's no thinking involved.
So what I put the Lego games off of as their kids game. They're old, and unfortunately, and they're also a labeled game. They're Legos, or just like how video game movies suck. There's a label to them, and it's Lego who's doing it, and they don't know games. They know Legos. And there's a whole lot of politicking in there that I think that just keeps those games where they could have had potential to be extremely boring.
Yeah. I mean, it is like it kind of feels like they've settled into this again, as you were just saying, Jim, that niche of not even trying to evolve or grow things. So I like the idea that they do like the open world stuff, like they did with Lego Lord of the Rings and Lego Batman, but it just feels like there's just nothing like there to play. Like it's almost like akin to like if you're watching like a trashy reality TV show. Like there is no like thought to it. There's nothing to really get more out of the experience, kind of.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about reality TV. I think we should call it by what it is: unscripted. It makes it sound more like this is what.
No, I think we should tell it what it is: scripted.
Yes.
Fake script. Badly.
Really big script. They're a scriptless, talentless hack show. There we go. That's the.
All right, whatever.
All right, so for you guys, what are your examples, if you have any?
Examples of
the game could have been made better if it had an easier difficulty setting, or it could have been made better if it had a harder difficulty setting.
So one for me was Mario. What was it? Mario, the one where you're like in 3D. Is it Galaxy?
Super Mario Galaxy?
Yeah, that one. I really wanted to play it. It was like, God, I was watching my son play it. I'm like, this is really great. And I just, some parts of it were so frustrating to me that I just said, whatever. You know what I mean? And I felt like my son could have stopped mocking me. But other than that, also, it's just easy mode. Could I just turn it down to get past? Like, it'd be great to have the thing to get past it, like you were saying. Like I don't know. I don't think they had a mechanic that was like what you were saying for the traditional Mario stuff. So.
Yeah, I think that it was Galaxy 2 where they or maybe not even past. I forget when they started adding when you die 5 times, you get like the special Tanuki or special like raccoon suit where you're invincible and you can float.
Could have been either Galaxy 2 or Super Mario 3D World. I know it was definitely in 3D World because I actually had to use it at one point and I had to go back and play it. But I'm fairly sure it was in Galaxy 2. And that's kind of one of the things about Nintendo. I mean, hell, there's another hour discussion right there. But like a lot of people think that there's that common misconception that all Nintendo games are, kiddie, you don't have to learn to play them kind of thing. But when Nintendo wants to, they can make some freaking difficult levels.
Oh yeah. And then if you play Mario Maker, you'll run into a whole bunch of
oh god,
oh my there's so many frustrating levels I've attempted to play, and then I see other people play that, and I'm like, that's freaking insane. Like that's not a Mario game anymore, in my opinion.
You start to get resentful, right? Get outside, you nerd.
It's a Saw death trap.
You start to be like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
I'm stupid video game. Well, I certainly think the principle applies, and I think it, applies for a lot of things, where there's the context of playing the game, the piece, this piece, that piece. And then there's the bigger picture, which is before you ever started to think about playing the game, all the way through, you're done with it and you're on to something else. You know what I mean? Like every game has that aspect where the context of it matters a lot, right? And we're critical of things like the Batman game, but also the context of that one, because it's so easy, is you could pick at it like a cell phone game. You pick it up and play it with no forethought at all. Just you're playing right now, as opposed to games where you're like, yeah, this is my first game. I'm warming up, guys. There's like different, commitments, right, and different attitudes towards it. So, I think that affects a lot of what the experience is, and difficulty is just one piece of that puzzle. You know what I mean?
Let's see, Pablo and Chad is bringing up from Galaxy 2, where one of the final challenges in that game is a no-hit run through one of the hardest levels in the game. And my god, I remember that one. I think that was close to controller throwing for me. I think that was one of those times.
It's a good thing they made those controllers really strong, right?
Yeah, wait, this was for Super Mario Galaxy, so it would have been the Wiimote, so I will have, chucked that thing somewhere.
Yeah, I never understood some of the stuff they did there, but yeah.
So you said, we were talking about the sort of difficulty and this other stuff. You also said we might be talking about games we've been playing recently. So what have you been playing recently?
For me, besides Dragon's Dogma, Dragon's Dogma, one of these days I'll get that right, I actually just finished Salt and Sanctuary, the Metroidvania kind of game. I think it was from Ska Studios.
Okay.
Did you like it?
I liked it, but I didn't love it. I found it okay. This probably takes us into another talk we'll have hopefully tonight, but about it felt like they were trying to copy or emulate Souls, the Souls series, but without that kind of understanding of what elevates those games to why people love it. A lot of the combat was very basic. None of the bosses really felt that interesting. When you play a Soulsborne game, the bosses are going to stick out to you. They're so memorable due to their designs and the different ways you fight them. In Soul and Sanctuary, it was just pretty much every fight was solved by rolling behind the guy and then hitting him 2 times, rolling behind him the other way, hit him 2 times, and just repeat until I win or they do some kind of grab attack that takes all my health.
You also got to keep in mind though, it's a 2D game, so it's different. There's a lot of when you say it's Souls inspired, that doesn't mean they're making a Souls game. In my opinion, anyway, it's just they like the world of the Souls environment, but they want to make their own game. So I never understood that aspect of it because it's its own game. So because it was inspired by it, but it doesn't play exactly like it, it's a bad thing. That I never got that.
Yeah, and that's one of those very interesting topics that I think we can easily talk about now or transition into, is that there's always been that debate about if someone bases their design or is inspired by another game, is it alright to call them out on, let's say, deviating from that? So, all the platformers that were inspired by Mario, do we call them out for not feeling the same as Mario about using different mechanics? With Soul and Sanctuary, for instance, they're clearly emulating the Soul series. There's a resource that goes away or you have to pick up when you die. The world resets. That kind of thing, but it also has the Metroidvania aspect to it, where you unlock new powers. You get the ability to wall jump, air dash, that kind of thing. So there are different elements to it. But, just bang my knee against my own desk there. I don't know if you guys heard that, but...
No, I didn't hear it.
Not at all.
Oh, there's the
we did not hear
Souls
the big loud
experience.
crack. Banging your knee up against the desk is the Souls experience.
It's just bang your knee and see what. That's now I have to go. I have to continue the cast with a bad my knees.
It's true.
That's how you
they
do.
Just give you this. They give you this one difficulty where you just bang your knee and it's hard and it hurts and that's it. It's like the only thing you get. I want some options here.
But with Soul and Sanctuary, now there were some elements to it that were, I think, unique to it that I didn't really like. One of the things is that they give you a lot of items and stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that you're just not going to use. I didn't really feel like they gave you a lot of options in terms of building your character out. There's this massive skill tree that lets you unlock like different passives, but they're basically in the form of stats. So it's like +3 strength, +2 endurance. Like it's not like you're unlocking a new attack for your axe or better abilities to block. And I think it kind of missed the point of, I guess, making the fights memorable. Like the enemy AI is very
More old
basic.
school. It's more old school.
Yeah.
Back in the day, all you could do was strength, charisma, intelligence, power, like spell. Like back in the day, it was like, oh, whoa, you can add a point here, and there you go. You're still attacking the same way. I don't know. I don't find a problem with that.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, but like because it's
we
still
were happy with that. Okay.
I mean, in the end, I think I think sometimes games are should be taken seriously, but are taken too seriously. You know what I mean? And it's like they're in the end, it's there to be in a world and get immersed in it and have fun. So I think I don't know, like
Yeah, and it's always one of the challenges, really, of reviewing or analyzing games because every game is different. And it makes it even harder because it's one, I think the common rules is that we try to find patterns in things. So whenever we don't know something, we try to apply it to something else. And like with a game so when someone says your game is Souls-like, what's the first thing everyone's going to think about is, okay, how is this like Souls? And, what isn't like it? And then do we take that as a problem? But then there comes the other side of things, then how do we figure out if something doesn't work? Like, how do we say, like, if something is a problem if we don't relate it to the Soul series? And that's like a whole philosophical discussion there.
Yeah, I think it's like Jim was saying, where to say something is like something, there's so many ways that could mean. Do you mean the feel of it? Do you mean the mechanics?
Move your
Paul,
mic closer, Paul.
Yeah, Paul, you're a little low there.
I'll tell you, I'm at the bottom of a well now. This is Paul reporting from God knows where. Yeah, I was just saying there's a lot of ways for something to be like another thing, and so your first topic of discussion is, what did you mean this should be like that, right? Did you mean theme? Did you mean mechanics? Lots of things it could mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
I'm going back to the bottom of my well now.
Okay. See you later, Paul.
Later.
What's that, blood? Paul's in the well?
I'll be trolling under the bridge later. Okay.
I think with like Soul and Sanctuary, like it does a lot of things right. I think another factor that I was mentioning is that it depends on. I think another thing that determines whether you're going to like it or not is what you were expecting out of the game. If you were expecting this to be 2D Dark Souls, this is not that game really. It feels more like a Metroidvania style game with some of like those kind of elements from Dark Souls added in. And I think if you approach
but you
it,
know what the all right, so I'm sorry to push back on this, but I'm reading the description on Salt and Sanctuary, and not one spot do they say anything about like Dark Soul, and they don't even say Dark Souls anywhere. So where is it? Where did they say they'd use Dark Souls and that they're Dark Souls inspired? Just because it looks like it, or is it because did they actually like say somewhere heavily inspired us?
It's one of those things that a lot of people read into it. Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, God. Now we're getting to the nitty gritty of the whole situation. People reading into things.
Yeah, I think if
you know what happens when you're making assumptions.
Oh God,
Make an ass out of you an option.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those very tricky parts about
Yeah.
when you start combining. Like, one of the things that we really saw with the game industry, especially over, I really want to say, like, really since like the early thousands, is how developers have been standardizing elements, and then
I'm sorry, early thousands.
yeah, it's weird.
That hurt my heart for a second.
I
just
know.
had to say, you know. Early thousands.
Yeah.
Okay, continue. Sorry about that.
Get you there. That
The appropriate term for that is the naughties.
okay.
The naughties?
7, the not 6, yeah, the naughties.
The naughties. Ah.
Oh boy. So like when things became more standardized, people started to adopt like general control schemes, general designs, that kind of thing. Like when Halo really burst on the scene in the early 2000s or early noughties, it really gave everyone the blueprint for what would be the standard control scheme for a first-person shooter. Especially if you're using a gamepad. I always have my trusty 360 gamepad ever by my side here next to my computer.
Yeah, that was the first FPS that I could play on a PC on a console, and I didn't want to shoot myself in the face.
Yeah.
With,
Halo?
the gun that was Halo. That's that. Yeah.
And what that means is once these standardized elements start showing up, is that it kind of becomes sort of like the acceptance or what people are expecting out of your game. Like if someone says they're making a platformer, the first thing people are going to think about is probably Mario. And as we said, like it's not good. Like you should try to avoid making those assumptions. Like Super Meat Boy is a platformer, but it is definitely not like Mario.
Yeah. But you could still say it was Mario inspired, and then people would be like, "Then you know what I'm saying?" Like, that's another. It seems like sometimes there's a double standard. Like you could say a platformer game is like, it's like Mario, because Super Meat Boy there are Mario elements. You're jumping, and you avoid sharp things and pits. Those are the basic elements of Mario right there. And then you go to something, like Dark. Like I think it really has to do with these hardcore games.
Yeah.
People just get so like bare-chested, like like caveman Neanderthal, because they were able to beat this super super hard game and feel so superior to people that it's like, oh, you're trying to create the profited game that I beat. This is nothing like it. Blah blah blah. This isn't this, and they didn't even say a word that it was. It's like,
wow.
Yeah. I think I've just alienated a whole bunch of gamers.
Well, at least you did, not me. I'm staying quiet here. Target him. I'm over here.
With it, but it's just like, calm the hell down. It's like, here, I'm gonna alienate somebody else. It's like sports fans. They get all crazy about it. Get all Neanderthal and.
Oh, today you're gonna piss off the sports fans?
Yeah, well, we're on Twitch. We're probably okay with that. I insulted. I think there's more. Well, the gamers like sports too, but you know what I mean.
I guess going back to it then, after Jim just insulted everyone, video gamers.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges, I think, especially when it comes to reviewing games, and I talked about this I think 2 or 3 months ago regarding the whole 7 to 9 review scheme and the whole review score on that front, and that just annoys the hell out of me because I just don't think that really represents a game. Like I said this in my review, like how do you say a game is a 7 versus an 8? Like how do you quantify, oh, I like this game, but or this game annoys me, but this game annoys me a little less, so let me give it like a half point higher.
That's the age-old question when it comes to any really reviews. I mean, be a game, books, movies. Everything is always so subjective that
Yeah.
you can't really you can't put a number to it. You have to. It's more. I think you've got to know the personality of the reviewer,
Mm-hmm.
and then you kind of learn that reviewer, and you kind of then get where he's going. I was like, oh, okay, so I played this game. He said it was this,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of get in mind with the reviewer in a way if you watch them a lot or if you read them a lot. And I think it's more of that and being able to stand the reviewer's opinion, not the number.
Yeah.
Even though there's a number at the end, the number makes more sense after you've learned about the reviewer, not about the game. That makes sense.
Depends on what you're talking about, though. I would agree with that. If it's any one review or any one number.
Got to be forward mic on the mic there, Paul. You're in the well.
Is that better?
You're in the well.
Better? Nah.
Oh.
How about now?
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm yelling though. How about now?
No, you're fine.
All right. I think it depends on what you're going to try to do. So obviously, if you're going to try to know about something, even a review is weak. You got to go experience it for yourself. So it really depends on the context. What are you doing with the number, and how many different samples did you get? So you get a bunch of numbers from a bunch of people, and they're all uniformly poor. Chances that you're going to like the game are probably pretty low. At least that's how I feel about it. I definitely feel that way about movies.
Yeah.
So consequently, for movie scores, I never use them to determine if I would like the movie, because they don't know. But I do use them to determine if I will not like the movie, because they probably know that. They don't know it always. I might go to see it and say that sucked, but didn't get that bad a review. But when something gets uniformly bad reviews, it's probably flawed enough and stupid enough that you're going to get frustrated too. You're going to go, well, yeah, in the end, I didn't wish I hadn't saw the movie or played the game. So it depends on what you're using the number for, I think, because I find it useful that way, especially for for different products, different things. You give it a quick look and just see if it's just uniformly bad. Then you say, whoa, maybe I should steer clear of it. But that also means don't be flavored by seeing, oh, on Rotten Tomatoes this thing got a 45. Yeah, but it's not a 30. They may be morons and they don't get the jokes, and I will. Who knows, right? I'm smarter than them. That's what my point. My point here is I'm smarter than reviewers. Okay, I want everyone to know that. But also, you know what I mean?
Paul just insulted the reviewers. All right,
it's right. So we're going for that. You know what I'm saying? But that's served me well, because a lot of times I'll go see something and people didn't give it that great of reviews, but I already kind of know I like that kind of thing, so maybe I'll like it, right? And I go see it and I'm like, yeah, that was great. But if anybody ever said this thing was piss poor and I go look at it, I usually am disappointed too. So that's my point. That's all I have. That's all I got.
Yeah, and as we said with video games, it's even horror because you have the different genres. You don't know the reviewer's own stance on those specific genres. Like we mentioned, like over this cast, we talked about RPGs, action games. I think we brought up strategy at one point. We brought up the Lego games, and there's always that debate. Like if you had, should you listen to a reviewer who, let's say, has never played a Souls game in their life, and they give it like a 3 or 4 out of 10, saying they hate it.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
But again, like this is someone who's never touched the series before. Like it would be the same thing if I try to write a review for a Madden game. Like I don't think I am not a Madden player, so like how
my review for the Madden game would be see last year's, because it's the same damn game.
Well, we're pissing off the sports fans again.
Yeah, there we go. Sports and gamers all in one shot. Bam!
Perfect.
Oh, there it is. All right. Well, I feel like you've gotten every single useful thing that I had to say. So, in summary, we pissed off. No.
Yeah.
Also, one other, as a quick, I guess, tangent for everyone watching this, in terms of the Twitch chat down there, is that in a good position? Should I move that up? Like, would that be easier for everyone to see? Let me see, because I'm noticing that it's cutting off part of the.
It cuts off the last two things.
Yeah. Let me see if I move it up.
Seems like kind of like 4 lines for me, but it depends on how much you wrapped. It was the last 2 statements that are not being shown.
Yeah, the last 2 statements are not being shown.
Yeah.
But it looks like there might be 4 lines worth or 3 lines worth.
If I can. This is one of those weird things about the cropping. It's kind of weird because it's maybe there you go. If I make it smaller, oh yeah, just because it was too wide for the window itself. That's better. Let me.
Yeah, probably if you just scroll it down to the bottom, it'll.
Right. I think that should be.
Yeah.
Let me. I can move it back. I like it in the bottom left just so that it doesn't look like I'm being like sandwiched in between windows there. All right. One second. It's always the joy of doing things live, right? There has to be some kind of element that doesn't work. Let me just move
it's
this.
Also sacrifice, okay? If you have to be jammed between two uncomfortable squares of text, then that's what happens to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You're gonna have to take that like a man, and cowboy up.
That's good. All right. We have definitely gone over the hour for our live discussion, and again, if we wanted to, we could just sit here for who knows, maybe another 2-3 hours of talking.
Paul could just talk about Iraq for a while if he wanted to.
I could, there, but my coffee ran out, so I probably would hit unconsciousness at some point within the next hour.
I'm down. I've almost finished my first drink. For those of you who didn't come in early, I have 2 drinks. I was able to prepare with 2 different drinks on standby for this. I've just about finished my first drink, so I could probably
You're ready for another hour.
Yeah, at least one more hour I think I have in me, but I know for these live discussions that it can be a little hard to sit through the whole thing. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Do you guys have any topics at all that you would like to bring up now? Anything we can talk about either quickly or just something to, like, I guess, shoot the shit with?
Why don't we try to set up our next talk? So let's spend this 5 minutes
let me,
and we'll talk about what we think would be good to talk about next time we come on the show.
Well, just like I forget the character's actual name, but the main character from the show, the critic, who had a cardboard cutout thing, I think, of him when he was trying to sell his book that just went, "Buy my book, buy my book." I'm just gonna say, buy our game, buy our game.
We're making a game right now. It's called Bit Shifter, and it's on early access, so I can hear all the doors closing as everybody leaves when they hear the word early access. But it is, and it'll be there for a little bit longer until we're ready. And you should check it out. It's called Bit Shifter, and it's a game that takes place inside a computer where you fight the virus. So you get your chance, Crufty computers filled with malware and viruses are frustrating, and you can take out that frustration in a game.
Yeah.
And for those of you who didn't watch, especially those either watching live or record like some of my newer fans, like I said at the start, we hung out on Twitch in, again, sometime July or August. We're not entirely sure. Again, the last few months have been just a massive blur. It only feels like 2 minutes, right, since we last spoke. But
somewhere in the Neolithic, we think.
Yeah. And we did a playthrough of the game. It was just, I think, right after I think you just did the patch update to it, or you were planning on doing the update to the game.
Yeah, it was coming out in the next couple weeks. So then that was yeah, it was like July, end of July.
And we went through the game. We kind of did like a little tour of a variety of the levels. I think I showed off the boss fight that was in the game. I'm pretty sure we caught like 2 or 3 bugs in the game during the cast, which is always good.
Yep. Yeah, well, yeah, it's always good to show the flaws.
Yeah, live too.
The flaws?
Flaws, yeah.
The flaws, oh yes. Let's speak.
But I think with that, it would definitely be great to have you guys back on, whenever you are free again next time.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's when we get together, let's talk next about the list of people that we haven't pissed off. Okay. That'll be our topic. So we have something to go through. Okay?
Yeah.
Something to work off. That's all I'm saying. I think we could be more efficient if we start.
By the end of the next time, no one will like us.
Yeah.
Nobody likes us now. That's
That's
not a
true.
change.
That is very true.
We should probably change our goals. Let's change our
Yeah.
goals. People will like us. No.
Yes.
That
Yes.
sounds stupid. Maybe people will watch despite not liking us. That's it.
There you go. They won't watch you because to see to make fun
It's
of
like
you.
watching a train wreck.
Yeah.
You can't look away.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here. But again, guys, it was great hanging out with you tonight. Again, we did have a podcast earlier. I think this was like a week or two before our previous live event, and it'll be great to hang out with you guys again, either live like this or with another podcast. But yeah, definitely keep in touch. And I know we've been talking about doing more with maybe like doing some videos together, so that'll be exciting whenever we have a chance to do all that.
Yeah.
All right, that should be great.
All right, so I think with that said, like I said, you guys, if you won't mind hanging on Skype for like a minute or two when we hang the call up. But for those of you watching this, we are going to end this week's episode. Again, if you've been enjoying things, for you first timers, be sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out Bit Shifter, now available on Steam, like they just said. It's on early access. If you haven't watched our live play, I think we talked for almost like 3 hours when we did that one. It was at least 2 hours if I remember right.
It was over 2, yeah.
Yeah, it was over 2.
Be sure to check that out. That is saved on the Game Wisdom YouTube channel. Other than that, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Game Wisdom Live. For those of you watching this right now live on Twitch, I should be back later tonight with a stream. I may be doing some more PS4 streaming tonight, so be sure to subscribe or be around, check that out. I'll have another critical thought ready for you tomorrow, as well as this week's Perceptive podcast, which I've done so many over the last few days I don't even remember who it's going to be for tomorrow, so it'll be a surprise for everyone then.
Right.
And again, be sure to check back here on Twitch every Thursdays around 7:30, 8 o'clock EST when we do this Game Wisdom Live. And like I always say, if you're a developer or someone who loves talking about games and would like to come on as a special guest, be sure to get in touch with me. Email is josh@game-wisdom.com. But other than that, Jim, Paul, thank you so much for coming on. I said this on Twitter that to have dinner early, I didn't follow my own lesson, so I'm going to go get something to eat now. And yeah, like I said, definitely stay in touch, and we should do this again real soon.
Cool. Yeah, definitely.
Sounds great. Talk to you later, man.
All right. And you guys, again, thank you for watching. And be sure to come back tomorrow for content on Game Wisdom, the YouTube channel, Twitch, where we examine the art and science of games. And once again, if you've forgotten, I'm Josh Bycer. And have a great night. And thanks again for watching. And once again, for those of you checking this out live, I should be back on later. But otherwise, I'll catch you all tomorrow. Have a great night. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GWBycer for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GWBycer for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.